Welcome to Exploring Ability and Disability Through Performance Autism Spectrum Disorder. This introductory video and slide presentation will orient you to the course, including an overview of assignments, the terminology and discourse we will use, and a few other housekeeping type items.
First off, we would like to introduce ourselves for students that may not know us yet. My name is Amber Chenoweth, and I am an Associate Professor of Psychology and the new Associate Dean of PGS here on Hiram's campus. I've just completed my 8th year teaching full-time here at Hiram, and I'm excited to be able to teach courses like this to expand my own knowledge about autism spectrum disorders.
And my name is Brittany Jackson, and I am the Assistant Director of Strategic Academic Initiatives and Study Away Coordinator. I'm a Hiram alum twice over, first with my bachelor's degree in 2004 and then my master's degree in 2015. I'm currently going through Ashland University's Educational Leadership Studies doctoral program. And I've been studying autism since 2010 when I worked with 3 students to create a play on autism similar to what you will be doing in this course.
If you need to reach us with any questions related to the course, please plan to email both of us at our email addresses listed here on the slide. By emailing both of us, you are likely to get a response much sooner. Alternatively, you can message us through Moodle, but just make sure that you select your message to instructors so both of us will get it.
Now that introductions are out of the way, we want to briefly go over the types of assignments you will have in this summer online course. First, each week you will be expected to participate in at least one discussion forum. These will typically be related to the assigned readings, as well as other activities we will assign. We'll go over what we're expecting in those discussions in more depth in a moment.
Next, we have creative assignments, or CAs, based on a scientific article. For the first 2 assignments, we will provide scientific articles for you. In the remaining weeks, you will be expected to find a scientific article that focuses on some aspect of autism spectrum disorders, and then use that as inspiration for a creative piece adhering to each week's assigned CA. This can be either a short written piece, about a page long, or a brief video or audio podcast, approximately 2 to 3 minutes long. In addition to the CA, you also need to submit your article, preferably as a PDF document. Please also note that your article must be from a scientific source. Finding a website on autism does not count. We have provided a few examples on our Moodle page to give you ideas and direction. Please do not hesitate to contact us if you have a question about if an article is appropriate or not. And we will also provide this feedback in our grading for each one.
Our next set of assignments are the readings and quizzes that are based on those readings. Each week you will have either full novels, which is the case for this week and next with Curious Incident and Fall Down 7 Times, Get Up 8, selected book chapters and/or articles examining various aspects of autism spectrum disorders. You're expected to keep up with each of these readings, and the quizzes are one way for us to track that. These readings will also be discussed in discussion forums, so make sure you are taking good notes for both types of assignment.
As part of our course requirements, we are asking you to create a performance piece based on a selected topic related to autism spectrum disorders. To provide you more information on your topic, we expect you to interview at least one person that is either diagnosed with ASD or interacts closely with someone with ASD, such as a parent, a teacher, a caseworker, etc. We will provide you more details as this assignment gets closer, but be thinking about who you might interview that would be appropriate.
And last, we have your final performance piece. In our face-to-face offering of this course, we have students perform the script that they write. In an online format, however, we have to get even more creative. While you will still be creating a performance piece in the form of a theatrical script, rather than performing on a stage, we will be asking you to create either a video or an audio podcast and perform a dramatic reading of your piece. Again, we'll go over more details as we progress through the course, but start thinking now about how you might want that final piece to look.
Now we want to turn our attention to the type of language and terminology we are expecting in this class. There are 2 main approaches we can take with language, and we want to discuss that distinction here now. The first is referred to as person first, in which we put the person before the disability, as in our example on the slide, a child with autism. The philosophy behind this approach is that the person is a person regardless of their disability, and that does not define them. However, there's another approach that's also preferred by some individuals called identity first, and that relates more to the disability identity. The philosophy behind this approach is that the individual embraces their disability as part of them and wears it with a sense of pride. While the example we have on the slide, an autistic child, is often heard, you typically hear individuals with a disability themselves using the disability identity speech, such as I am an autistic versus I have autism. As you can see in the video we are about to play, Nathan Selo prefers identity-first language. For additional information about both sides of this, check out the additional resources we provided in this section of Moodle.
Hey, it's Nathan Selo from Oak Croft Films with another edition of Autism Actually Speaking. Today we're going to talk about a topic that I've gotten some comments about over the years, and I think it's time that I make a video to clarify my position. Person-first language. Person-first language is born from the idea that it's dehumanizing to refer to someone by their condition before their humanity, i.e. using the term autistic rather than person with autism. Over the years, I've given a lot of talks about autism to several different groups, and one of the things that people often notice is the fact that I usually refer to autistics as autistics rather than people with autism. And during a lecture that I was giving to this classroom full of students who were planning on going into special education as a career, one of them noticed this and they asked me about it. She mentioned that as a student, she's encouraged to use person-first language so as to emphasize the person's humanity over their condition. And she wondered why I use the term autistic, whether that's strategic or whether that's just automatic. So then I said, well, let me ask you a question, if you're comfortable answering, of course. What gender do you identify as? And she said female. And I asked if there were advantages and disadvantages to being female, and she agreed that there were. And I asked if it was something that she would change, and she said no, because it is an integral part of who she is. It's part of her personality. She wouldn't be her without it. And then I pointed out that when I first asked this question, her immediate inclination was to say, I am female, not I am a person who identifies as female. Now, you might have guessed that this wasn't really about her being female. This was about her own identity, the way she views herself, shaping her perspective of the world. Now, I've often said that autism is a part of who I am. I would not be me without it. It shapes my personality. It shapes the way I view the world. Autism is a part of almost everything that I do in at least a small way. Now, a lot of people use person-first language because they don't want to define someone by their disability. However, I would argue that to an extent, I am defined by autism. It's not all of who I am, but it is definitely a part of who I am. And I don't use person-first language for other parts of my identity. I refer to myself as a gamer, not a person who plays video games. I refer to myself as a Virginian, not a resident of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Commonwealth, not state. In my personal view, person-first language is a surrender to the idea that autism is an inherently bad thing. And if you're familiar with my other videos, you probably know that I strongly reject that idea. To be clear, my problem isn't with other autistics who decide that they want to use person-first language to describe themselves. That's their choice, and that choice should be respected by those around them. My problem is when non-autistics try to make that decision for us. When a neurotypical tells an autistic, you're a person who has autism, not an autistic person, it might be well-intentioned, but you're basically saying you don't get to decide who you are. We do. And it feeds into the narrow neuronormative narrative. Wow, say that 5 times fast. Now, personally, I don't really care that much if people refer to me as a person with autism or an autistic. If you were to ask me, I'd probably say that I prefer autistic, but it doesn't really bother me. And it may not bother a lot of people. But if you're worried about it, then just ask. Or wait and see how we identify ourselves. We get to make that decision. If you have any questions or topics you'd like addressed, please leave them in the comments below, or message me on my Facebook, also linked below. And remember, if you actually did the assigned readings in school, you might be autistic.
So, as you can see, we're in a culture and society where our own preferences need to take a backseat to those with a disability. And this is something to keep in mind, particularly for when you are doing your interviews. Just like we are more aware of preferred gender pronouns as it relates to gender identity, We need to be aware of preferred language when it comes to disability identity. Do not be afraid to ask your interviewee which they prefer. They will likely appreciate that over you assuming one way or the other. So regardless of which language approach, we ask that you be consistent within each individual assignment, in your discussion forum posts and in your writing assignments. And moreover, be respectful. This course will touch on many sensitive topics, and by engaging in respectful language, we can set the tone for thoughtful discourse.
Now that we have an understanding of our language use, let's turn our attention to your participation in this class. Everyone is expected to participate in the weekly discussion forums. This is an online course, and this is the core way that you will be able to learn from each other and exchange ideas. As such, we are expecting you to, at a minimum, post twice each week, once by the Wednesday of each week in which you will post your own thoughts related to the discussion prompt, and once by Sunday in which you will respond to another student's post. We strongly recommend that you post more often, though, to allow for a richer and fuller discussion of each week's topic. Remember, the more you put into this course, the more you will get out of it. We have already created an introduction forum for this week and have posted our introductions so you can learn more about us and also have a model to go off of. Another thing to keep in mind is what you write in the post itself, particularly when it comes to commenting on others' posts. The goal in this discussion forum is to develop and add to the conversation. This is not like a Facebook feed. You won't get credit for simply liking a post. You need to offer something more substantial. What in particular about that person's comment do you agree with or disagree with? Is there another way that you could examine the issue?
And related to that, the best way to keep a discussion going is when we are in an atmosphere of respect. Yes, people might disagree with you and have very diverse opinions on many of the topics that we discuss. Be respectful in your rebuttals, though, and don't take things too personally. Again, this is to be an academic atmosphere where everyone is free to exchange their ideas and engage in respectful debate. That being said, if you do have a strong opinion, be able to back it up with evidence. One thing you will walk away from this course knowing is that there's a lot we don't know about autism, particularly when it comes to examining causal factors. And one way many of the misconceptions about autism causes persist is because they get discussed as fact without any support. So if you're going to make a claim in response to a discussion prompt, you need to have the evidence to support that claim, either from the assigned readings, or feel free to provide links to additional materials. Occasionally we will be responding to posts within the forum, but we want you, as students and scholars, to take the lead. We may help guide and add additional insight into particular topics, but we want you to feel comfortable exploring the topics with each other. So, now that introductions are over, let's get started.